Hey everybody, welcome back to today's episode of Hit Point Extra. There's no actual episode of Hit Point this week because Baku's taken off, but I had to talk about the news today. The RPG Nintendo Direct. Okay, maybe it wasn't quite an entirely RPG Nintendo Direct. There was a lot of Mario stuff, but there was a lot of really interesting RPG related things that I had to talk about today. So let's just start with what wasn't present. I know that a lot of people were already hyped. Hopefully they were hyping responsibly for the HD 2D remaster or remake of Chrono Trigger that had been rumored up to this point by, I can't remember their name, but basically, essentially some somewhat famous leaker who has a dubious track record mentioned an HD 2D remake of Chrono Trigger, and that it would be announced at this Nintendo Direct, which they said would be, they announced the Nintendo Direct before Nintendo even did, so it had some credibility. Some people were pretty hyped, and I was kind of, I don't know. I'm not gonna say that I was responsibly hyped. I had my misgivings. I think Square Enix just doesn't seem to really like touching the Chrono Trigger IP very much. I hope that I'm wrong, but that is the impression that I get, because it's tied up with some of the people who are no longer with the company. And anyways, I just didn't quite believe it. What I did see this morning when I woke up, there was a fan group who put together a demo of an HD 2D Chrono Trigger, and that looked incredible. And I was like, okay, pretty cool. Well, I wonder if maybe that's what the leaker was confused with, because when the Nintendo Direct actually happened, Chrono Trigger was nowhere to be seen, and I'm sure many hopes were dashed. But that aside, that's okay. This is why we hype responsibly around here, everybody, because what we got, instead of what we were hoping for, what we got was pretty dang good. So I'm going to go through a list of things that caught my eye that I thought looked pretty impressive so far. Starting with, I guess, Persona 5 Tactica, I thought looked okay. You know, I'm not really... I played the original Persona 5 and then Persona 5 Royal came out, and I just could not dedicate more time to it. Persona 5S then came out, and I wanted to try that out, but you know, I felt like maybe, I don't know, I just never made my way to it. And then we have this other one and its spin-offs, and there's that mobile game. And yeah, at this point, it's like I'm a little overwhelmed with how much Persona 5 content they are releasing at this point. So while it looks cool, I'm just wondering why Persona 5? Like, why not have it be some other IP? I mean, probably because this one's gonna sell because it's Persona 5, obviously. But that's just my initial reaction. This is like, does it gotta be Persona 5? And why is Persona 5 getting all this love and attention? I guess it's because it's the breakout hit. I mean, I thought Persona 3 and 4 were pretty breakout hits, but you know, I guess Persona 5 has outshone and outsold, so I guess, I mean, whatever. I can't be too disappointed, but I think that this game does look good regardless. The combat system looks pretty interesting from what little they've shown of it so far. You know, I'll keep my ears and eyes out for more on this as the game develops, but for the time being, yeah, it looks pretty neat. There was some other games though that I thought looked pretty interesting. This isn't one that I would normally talk too much about, I don't think, but Mythforce is a Saturday morning cartoon inspired first-person multiplayer RPG, and every part about that sounds really awesome to me, except for the whole multiplayer aspect. I think that as a first-person RPG, it could be really nice if I like to play as like a stealthy kind of character, an assassin type, a roguish type, if you will. But it did not look like stealth would really lend itself super well to that game, and it didn't look like I saw any stealthy characters. So even though it's kind of like an interesting kind of D&D Saturday morning cartoon inspired first-person multiplayer RPG, I'm still kind of like, I don't know, I could take it or leave it, but it looks kind of neat. It definitely appeals to some of my sensibilities, just not all of them. And I've got so many games on the horizon that I don't think I'm going to really put too much of my attention into this for the time being. Beyond that, we got, I think, a real showstopper for a lot of people. And this one is Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars remade in sort of this style that reminds me of the new Link's Awakening remake that they did, and I thought that looked really pretty dang solid. It looked really faithful, and honestly, I can't wait for more people to try this game. This was a game that came out on the Super Nintendo originally. Its graphics, while impressive, very impressive at the time, have aged it quite considerably, and it's kind of hard to go back, I think, if you don't already have the nostalgia for it. But what it has as Mario merging with a lot of what Square Enix offered at the time in turn-based combat expertise really made this a gateway RPG for so many people back in like 1996-ish. I want to say 96. I don't know for sure, didn't look it up, but I think 95, 96. And this has the potential on Nintendo Switch to be a new gateway RPG for a whole new generation of people if they're interested, and if they are able to make it appealing to the new generation of could-be RPG players. It's games like these that are going to draw in more people. And it's also going to sell like buku bucks, because obviously it will, because there's so many fans of the original that are not going to pass this up. Personally, I would love to give it a look, but I've played Super Mario RPG recently enough that I might not actually give it a full playthrough at some point, but I at least have the intention of taking a look at it if I get the chance. It's pretty dang cool, I think, that they are finally revisiting this interesting little collaboration, 20 odd years later. That is so awesome. The next one is called Silent Hope, and this looks like I don't know exactly what to expect from it. They call it an action RPG. It kind of looked a little bit kind of I don't want to say it in a bad way, but it looked kind of like your run-of-the-mill, kind of almost generic-looking kind of RPG. I don't really know too much about it. I was still kind of excited about Super Mario RPG, so I took bad notes during that part of the of the show. But just the same, I think that of everything that they showed, this is one of those things that does have my interest at least peaked currently. For the time being, let's see what they do. If they bring something unique to the table to help it stand out, I hope so, because the more games that we can be excited for, the better. But as long as you are into JRPGs and stuff like this looks definitely like it's gonna be in that realm of games that will appeal to you. Then we got Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince, which is basically it's Dragon Quest Monsters is basically Pocket Monsters. It is Pokemon with Dragon Quest characters, and that's pretty dang cool. If you played a lot of the earlier Dragon Quest games, I think Dragon Quest 4, for instance, or was it 3? I can't remember which. One of them had the mechanic where you would go through and actually recruit monsters to join you. I think it was Dragon Quest 4, and it was a really awesome game that I actually had several games following that actually included that as part of like the game's mechanics. Like Dragon Quest 8, for instance, monsters could join you and fight alongside you. This is more of a turn-based style game where you acquire monsters to fight alongside you and fight other monsters in an arena and stuff like that. It looks pretty dang all right. It's a Nintendo Switch game, so you got to kind of check some of those expectations. Hopefully it runs well. We'll see. But this is the one that honestly stole the show for me. Everything else was cool. Super Mario RPG was awesome, but then everything else stopped mattering. Star Ocean Second Story R HD 2D looks incredible. This is a game that more people need to be excited for. If you never played the original, that's okay. The Star Ocean games are kind of disconnected from one another. I don't think you really need to have played the first one in order to enjoy the second one, because that's the only one that I've played, Star Ocean The Second Story on PlayStation 1. And this is what I've been waiting for a long time, for the PlayStation 1 era games to start getting that HD 2D style treatment. Chrono Trigger was, it's such a classic, you don't really need to do a whole heck of a lot to just make it an enjoyable experience. And right now on PC, Chrono Trigger is already as good as it's ever been. Now this one though, this has a little bit of wiggle room. It doesn't have, for a lot of people, it doesn't have a whole lot of nostalgia to hold you back, to make it be like, hey, this isn't like what it was in the original. I feel like there's enough people who are in the fandom that hold their love for this as loosely enough that they would really enjoy the revisiting of this game and playing around with a lot of things. I feel like in a lot of ways, Chrono Trigger is one of those games where if the more that they change, it's kind of like gilding the lily. It's so cemented in our minds as being this perfect like microcosm of perfection in the RPG development that like any change would be sacrilege. Case in point, when I saw the HD 2D remake by the fan group that I was talking about earlier, and I saw it and I was like, ooh, oh, is that, because I didn't know it was real or fake or otherwise, and I saw it and I was kind of like, oh, I don't know. It's just something about it did not it live up to the hype in my mind that would require. The pixel art was different enough that it's like, that's not my Chrono, that's not my Marl. But turns out it was just a fan thing, and I didn't have to be kind of downtrodden about it. You know, I will say though, this looks so faithful. The new Star Ocean second story art looks so faithful to the original, based on this trailer that I've seen, which is not a whole heck of a lot, but what I've seen makes it look like it's gonna run really, really nicely. It's going to be presented beautifully. And I know a lot of people are already over the HD 2D thing. I'm not, because I haven't played a ton of those games. It's an aesthetic I think just lends itself so well to this era of RPGs. And you know, that's fine. If you're tired of it, that's cool. And if you're gonna come into the comments and say, I'm tired of HD 2D, hey, that's fine. You know, start your own YouTube channel if you just want a YouTube channel that regurgitates your own opinions back to you. That's what I did. So anyways, yeah, I think that this is incredible. I'm really excited about this, and because I don't have it as honestly as close to my heart as Chrono Trigger, I will, I think, be a lot less critical of it when it does eventually come out. This is going to be even better, I think, than what we could have got when the original HD remaster of like when we got First Departure R. I was thinking this is going to be basically just an enhanced port of that for the second story, but no, this is an all new remake, and it's better than I had hoped. And well, I am just gonna leave you with this. Hype responsibly, everybody. Don't let the news of what could be or what could have been hold you back from enjoying the things that are, because I mean, even though we didn't get the big news that a lot of us were really hoping for, you know, I think we got some really awesome stuff on the horizon, and we'll be continuing to talk about those in the forthcoming episodes of Hit Point, you know, when Baku returns after this weekend. So yeah, we'll be sure to keep you up to date over there. And if you guys aren't already familiar with Hit Point, the JRPG news podcast, what are you doing? Get subscribed and follow and listen over on whatever podcasting platform of choice you have. It's a very nice podcast, if I do say so myself. I really enjoy it, and I like hanging out with all of you guys there. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of this extra Hit Point extra episode, whatever it is. Words are hard. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.